Hello my fellow Hollowed Hunters, this is the Souls Fanatic, and today I will be making the Purging Stone from Dark Souls. A list of materials is in the description below. Not everything is required, and feel free to substitute things if you wish. Our first step is to make a mold like this one. You're going to need plastic sheeting and a template. And you're going to cut the template from the plastic sheet. I'm going to use double-sided tape, so it's just as simple as sticking it on. After cutting it out, you're going to want to fold and crease the trapezoids inward so the plastic is on the outside like so. Then use the hot glue gun and line the inside creases with glue to keep its shape. Now we're going to take a bowl and glue our template to the bottom of that bowl. So put a large glob of glue in the center and stick it flush to the bowl so that there's no gaps. You'll have to wait 5 minutes for it to harden. For the molding material, I will use Amazing Remelt. Molding materials can be kind of pricey, but with this one I can reuse it for different projects. However, this one can only make 1 part molds. First, we're going to heat it up as directed. This one melts down with heat and solidifies with cold. Whatever molding material you use may require a different process. But because mine uses heat, it will melt the hot glue in my template. So I have to wait a few minutes for it to cool off. Pour your mold in and try to avoid creating air bubbles. Now I'll stick it in the fridge for 15 minutes to solidify. When it's done, just pull it out and you should have your template indented into the mold. Make sure to cover it so dust doesn't get into your mold. We'll put this off to the side so we can start on the clay. Polyclay is extremely hard, so we're going to soften it by taking this bowl filling it with hot water. Putting a small bowl in the center, and then the clay into the small bowl. Then cover it, wait about 10 minutes, and the clay should be soft enough to work with. First you'll need to make a square, about the base size of the template. I made this for my template. You're also going to need an Exacto knife and clay. You'll want to make it into a head-shaped ball. Then flatten it onto the paper. Then use the knife to cut away the outline. I'm going to use the blunt end of the paintbrush to poke in the eyes. And for the nose, you will need to carve it out with the knife. Now once you have the basic shape done, you can start detailing. I know there are specialized tools for clay, but I'm just going to use the Exacto knife. After about a half an hour of detailing, you can carefully pull off the skull and put it onto the square. You're going to want to squish the edges into the clay so the skull doesn't fall off. Next you're going to want to scratch in some cracks and maybe add some texture. This will help it make it look more like a stone. After you're finished with the detailing, you will need to bake the clay as directed on the clay's package. And by bake it, I mean the oven. Do not use the microwave. While that cooks, we'll start mixing the resin. Now, casting resin is expensive. It's like 20 bucks but a good substitute was Famowood Glaze. It's about 20 bucks for a quart, which is essentially twice as much for the same price. So I recommend Famowood. Now with resin, there's two parts. There's the resin, and then there's the hardener. You must carefully make an exact measurement of a 1-to-1 ratio. If you're just slightly off, you will get a resin cast that's yellow, foggy, or sticky. I've done enough resin casts to eyeball it, so this is how I do it. Take 3 different colored plastic disposable cups. One will hold the resin, one will hold the hardener, and the last one will be the mixing cup. Carefully pour the resin into the cup using the baseline as a guide. Then I cut down 1 cup to make it easier to mix. And carefully pour both the resin and hardener together simultaneously at the same rate. Then take a stir stick and thoroughly but slowly mix the resin. If you do not mix thoroughly, then the resin will not harden evenly and become mushy. If you do not mix slowly, then the resin will be full of bubbles. I'm going to take some black pigment and dye the resin into a gray. Pigment is extremely strong, so only add a tiny bit, like less than a drop. Mix that in and set it aside for now. When the skull is finished cooking, take some black paint, a rag, and a paintbrush. Slightly brush on the black paint and wipe it off with the rag. The result should give you a dark gray. Make sure to get into the cracks. The black paint will help highlight them. Oh, and don't forget to paint the back. When the paint dries, take the resin and begin pouring it into the mold. Then take the skull and a toothpick and fill in the cracks and holes with the resin. We're doing this to avoid air bubbles getting stuck into the skull. Now you're going to want to put some hot glue on the back and stick some toothpicks in to help keep the skull from sinking too deep into the resin. After 24 or so hours, it should have hardened enough to pull it out. And now we have our purging stone. Use a knife to cut off the flaps and toothpicks. It turned out pretty well. Now if you like what you saw, why not leave a like or subscribe for more builds in the future. And special thanks to my first Patreon for this request.